Hey guys, I will tell you what, the garden absolutely loves rain. There's nothing like rain. It doesn't compare to watering from a well or watering with your hose. It just makes the garden take off. I feel like everything has grown so much in these past few days that we have been so rainy. But while I've been down in the garden, I've really been focusing on what crops we're growing, how we're going to preserve those, what's going to come in at the same time. Like for instance, a lot of my peppers are getting ready, and I know that my tomatoes will start ripening up, and I won't need as many tomatoes for salsa as I'm going to need for marinara sauce. So I think I'll start with my salsa preservation first. And so anyways, I'm just trying to go through that, streamline my process, be as efficient as possible. But I kind of had a little bit of a breaking point the other day when I went to Walmart. And I'm going to show you some clips here of what I saw. So I was in there with my girls. We were picking up a birthday present for one of my little guy's baseball buddies. He was having a birthday party. And I just was really shocked. The poultry section was empty. The bananas were missing. Things were just really empty. The store was very much spread out, and everything had been moved. So the aisle that says cookies, there were no cookies there. They had been moved to another location, and then everything had been really condensed. And so anyways, I had talked to Nate, and we've kind of started brainstorming a little bit about foods that we may not be growing that our family could be eating. Things that we do eat, but maybe we're just not producing here. And really, besides grains, which I'm not prepared to do yet, besides that, we came up with beans. Okay, so I'm growing green beans, and I'm growing cowpeas, and I'm growing soybeans. But what I'm not growing anything of are going to be your dried beans. So what I did is I went ahead and I placed a large order. I'm buying pounds and pounds of these types of seeds, things like lima beans, fava beans. I've got some topazio beans, some Cherokee Trail of Tear beans, all shelling beans, black turtle beans. And we're going to be planting those in various locations throughout the garden. We still have enough time in our growing season. So if you're wanting to do this too, and you have a longer growing season, start to get these things in now. Some of them are 60-day, some of them are more of a 90-day if you're leaving them in and keeping them dry, which is what we're going to be doing, all dry beans. And what's really nice about the dried beans is that they're easy to harvest, because you just leave them on the vine until they're ready to be harvested, until they're dry inside it, sort of shaking inside of that pod. They're easy to preserve. You simply just shell them, and then they're easy to store. You can put them in a Mylar bag. You can vacuum seal them in glass containers. So anyways, yeah, that's a product that we do eat a lot of, but we haven't been growing. So we've got a few different varieties that are different species, so they won't cross-pollinate. And we're going to be trying those out this year. And my hope is to not only eat those, but to seed save from them. And so how I kind of go about seed saving is that I'll take a variety and I will buy a lot of that seed. So like a pound at a time. And then I will attempt to seed save for that year. And if I'm successful, awesome, I'm successful. But if I'm not, then I have a good backstock of seeds for the next year, just in case I can't get those. So that's kind of how I go about seed saving. And another thing too is I have seed saved in the past. Like last year, I saved my okra. But for some reason, when it germinated this year, the hard shell would not come off of the plant. And it ended up killing every single one of my seedlings, even if I tried to offer it help, because that shell was just so hard. I couldn't remove it without killing the first set of leaves. So anyways, yeah, you really want to kind of experiment with this, test it out, see if your germination rate is good, but always have a backstock on hand just in case. And so I will show you what we have planted and what we're doing, and we've kind of done this in a few different areas around the property. So I will show you guys what we've planted, where we've planted it, and what our plans are in case y'all are wanting to kind of increase your production for the year. Yeah, we're just trying to prepare, and we have a lot of projects that are going on to help us be as efficient as possible, to help us be as prepared as possible. And so I think now is really the time to do that. We started by finishing 2 new raised beds that we added to the garden area. Nate is pounding in the supports for those, and we ended up using just some soil that we had on the property to fill those with. We amended that with some peat moss and vermiculite, and mix that up really well. We went ahead and finished the area by just putting in some wood chips to cover up the irrigation pipes. And I ended up planting some butternut squash in these. That's a really productive crop. It stores very well, and it's a really great food source, and you can do a lot with that. One of the beans I wanted to try this year was a Cherokee Trail of Tear bean, and that needs trellising, and this was really my only area that I had a trellis. I am 10 feet away from my green beans because the Cherokee Trail of Tear bean will cross-pollinate with them, but hopefully that isolation distance won't be an issue. I'm also finishing the rest of this bed with some lima beans that are a different species and will not cross-pollinate, so I'm really hoping to max out this area, and I believe I'm doing about 9 beans per square foot in this bed. And so we'll see how that works and see if these guys are too crowded, and I will know for next year how to plant these out most effectively. Here in this bed, I'm actually doing a horticultural bean. It's called Topazio. It's red with white stripes. It's a dry shelling bean. It has a lot of different uses, and I really wanted to try this one. It's a beautiful bean, and I think it will be really good in some soups and in some different meals that we make here. This spinach has been on its way out for a couple of weeks now, so I finally got to pulling all of that. I left a few for seed, and then I planted the rest of this bed out with some Little Gem lettuce since we're running low. I do have some up in my green stalks, and I have some leaf lettuce in another garden bed as well. Now in row number 1 here, I had planted about 100 soybeans, and then I had run out of seeds. So when I placed my seed order, I put in an order for more seeds. And I'm finishing off this row with some extra soybeans, and then down at the end I actually have a California black-eyed bean. Here I'm putting in some dragon tongue bush beans from Baker Creek. I only got 40 seeds in the seed packet, and sometimes what I like to do with these types of things is to plant these out and just strictly save them for seed so that I can build up my seed stock for the next year. Since I don't really need any more fresh eating beans this year because I have so many green beans, I will strictly save these for seed and then maybe even give some as gifts to some friends. And we finished up. I decided that since I planted a different variety of sunflower this year, I really actually wanted to do some black oil sunflower seeds. And we already had some volunteers up at the front of the property here in front of the house. And so I thought, well, why not? We'll just go ahead and plant out the entire planting bed area with more sunflowers and just see what comes up. I figured the space was just sitting there empty anyways and just filled with wood chips and was getting overtaken with weeds. So if anything, the sunflowers will help to shade some of those weeds out, and we might get some production off of it.
All right, guys, well, I hope that video gave you some ideas of things that you can do to up your production, bring in more food for your families. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'm afraid that the rain is going to start pouring down on me, so I'm gonna get inside. I've got some preserving and things to do in there, and so that's where I will be. But thank you all so much for hanging out with me.